came across this interesting tweet and article here on X. It was talking about an alleged GTA 6 story or story plots that were canceled by Take-Two Interactive before they finally settled on the Bonnie and Clyde type of story that we're getting with Jason and Lucia. One of these concepts was titled Grand Theft Auto Americas, and the guy that posted this is GTA 6 Countdown. And here we can look at his breakdown of the article mentioned that I will link down in the comments below. But apparently this GTA 6 story was canceled because it was too dark. Now these three versions or concepts for a story were all presented by Dan Houser, and this first story was a police crime plot that featured three protagonists: an old cop, his troubled son, and the right-hand man of a Colombian drug lord. The cop is principled, but he gradually descends into organized crime in a desperate effort to protect his son, who is struggling with drug addiction. The son, a devout Cuban American trying to escape his addictions and the dangers of the drug trafficking world. The drug lord's right-hand man imports narcotics into the United States through Vice City with ambitions to build his own empire in North America. And apparently this version was codenamed Project America, so that Grand Theft Auto Americas thing that was going on back then. I remember about 9 years ago there was conversations about a Grand Theft Auto Americas, but at the time it was talking about making the whole United States the game of Grand Theft Auto. I do remember that. So this was Project Americas, at least that's what it was titled, and this began development back in 2014, but it got canceled and rebooted in 2016. So since this didn't work out, because apparently the story beats and everything surrounding it was a little bit too dark, Dan Houser presented a reboot, a second rewrite, and this one was in development for 18 months before it got canceled in mid-2018. It apparently was less dark, with two protagonists, a female police officer and a drug smuggler's right hand. The female police officer would have been the daughter of a Vice City cop who was killed in the line of duty. She would seek personal revenge by infiltrating the local underworld and taking it down illegally while still serving as a cop. The drug smuggler's henchman is wild and unpredictable, like Trevor from GTA 5, who gradually climbs the ranks throughout the story. But again, just like the previous version, Project Americas, this one would be canceled. So they rebooted it for a second time. And this one was only in development for a few months. The plot was similar to the first one, but this time the grieving female cop was replaced by an African-American man who was a former soldier. And he was recently released from prison, and he would fall into the criminal underworld. However, this one would also be canceled by Take-Two in March of 2019. So the article would go on to say that after 3 different versions of the GTA 6 script developed by Dan Houser and his team of writers were rejected by Take-Two management, the vice president of creative at Rockstar Games decided to take a sabbatical year at the end of March 2019. So this basically would lead to Dan Houser, one of the founders of Rockstar Games, to depart publicly in February 4th of 2020. After this occurred, the 4th storyline for GTA 6 was presented and approved by Take-Two Interactive at the end of 2019. The storyline would focus on 2 protagonists, a couple whose plot is inspired by the story of Bonnie and Clyde. And that's how we ended up with Jason and Lucia. But if we look at the previous stories and, we look at Grand Theft Auto Americas and we look at the first reboot and then the second reboot of the stories, I think they were interesting. They sounded like they could have been good ideas. They sounded like it could have been adopted into a GTA 6 type of story, and it probably would have done well. However, it also did sound kind of similar to maybe other stories that we've gotten in the past. Somebody in the comments said it kind of reminded them a little bit about maybe GTA 4 story. Some people allegedly would have preferred any of those 3 stories over the one that we actually got with Jason and Lucia. Could this have been a good story? Absolutely. However, the having 3 protagonists, I think, would have felt a little bit too similar to GTA 5. And I think that some people might have even thought, well, maybe Rockstar is running out of ideas that they have to do the whole 3 protagonist thing again. I really don't think that having 3 protagonists would have been the right call for GTA 6, because you just had it with GTA 5. I think when you have multiple protagonists, you got to worry about so many different things, like, building a connection with all 3 characters, liking all 3 characters, giving them their own style and stuff like that. And it just kind of takes away from the story sometimes, because you're jumping in and out. And unless it's done really, really well, then it might not always work the same. Some people might have felt the same with GTA 5. Maybe they liked Michael and Franklin, but they didn't like Trevor, or vice versa. So it could have, been more of a hindrance than anything else. However, I do think that the stories were pretty cool. This would lead Dan Houser to open up his own studio with no restrictions and stuff like that. So he might have been already working. So he's probably deep at work on something. So, you know, if Dan Houser comes out with a game here in the future, it's definitely something to look at because it'll probably be something really cool and written really well. What do you guys think about these GTA 6 story concepts that were canceled? And would you have preferred them over what we ended up getting with Jason and Lucia?